mostly what we see is the police, particularly, don't allow themselves to be filmed when they're busy doing whatever it is they're doing. We've had instances where even journalists have been assaulted by police officers because they didn't want people to film what they were doing. Samuel's story you did a few days ago, that gentleman who wanted to film them, and they pointed a gun at him and escaped for his life. He's got like serious injuries sustained during the process. And with every investigation, evidence sits at the heart of the verdict. How difficult was this investigation process to ascertain the facts of those allegations that were put forward?
Yes, you are quite right. Evidence, actually sits at the center of such a public inquiry, because it's not just when people come to you to say, oh, they did this to me, they did that to me, and then we conclude that, yes, you are right. So we have to ask questions further, to ask you to present witnesses, ask you to present if you have any evidence in the form of documents or photos, images, as the case may be. So for instance, there is one case in Kenema where a tough guy was really beaten. He was beaten up mercilessly during one of the COVID lockdowns. And fortunately, I think it was AYV, an AYV journalist who covered that incident. So the video was available. So when we put the police officer on oath, and he was trying to evade questions, he never knew that, in fact, we already have this evidence, this video. And then I said, okay, hold on a minute, let's display. We have a video. And then we displayed it, and then I asked him the questions. Are you in that video? He said, yes. Can you point yourself in that video? He did. Do you recognize those others? He said, yes. Do you recognize this man that is being beaten in that video? He said, yes. So the evidence was so compelling that he had to change his initial narrative of the incident because of the evidence. So evidence really forms so much part of all of these things that we are doing. And your premise was police officers normally do not want them to be filmed. But you know what? What they do is really in the public domain, and they are a public institution. So I don't know why they will tell you that, no, don't film me. It's not in your private place. It's not in the police premises. If you come out, you are doing your job, you will expect that people will film you. In other countries, developed countries, there are cameras all over the place. Cameras that are in open places. So that even when you do things that you know or you believe that nobody's seeing you, there's a public camera that actually will film you. At the end of the day, they will look at it. They look at the footages. And in some other countries, there is a body cam, in fact. So we are still, trying to go to that level where the police as an institution, becomes much more aware of developed policing and a policing based on the human rights-based approach, so that they become accountable. There is a clear distinction, my dear lady, between the police as an institution and the military as an institution. Over my, how many years, 5 years or 6 years of working with these two institutions, I see like a very huge ocean between the two. Whilst the military is so much professional and disciplined, I cannot say the same for the police. The military, when we had this discussion, when we had this exercise, even before we went to the field, we engaged the military. They were so receptive. They said, okay, we are okay to, put ourselves up for accountability. And then they said, we'll support you. So everywhere we went, when we now went to the field, they sent in lawyers. They have several military people who are actually lawyers. So they sent in lawyers. In some cases, in fact, we had brigadier generals, who are lawyers, who appeared on behalf of their institution.
Which means they took the process
very seriously. Very seriously.
So with this, which means the police did not take it as seriously, I presume?
Well, I don't want to say they don't take it seriously, but they did not give us the kind of cooperation
that you expected.
Yes, exactly.
So what happens now when you've given them a 21 days ultimatum to pay? So two things there. Once they pay, how is the money distributed? And if they do not pay, what's the penalty for that?
All right, so we have laws. I mean, I've just said a lot of these things are really being managed by the laws of Sierra Leone. So, for instance, when we publish such a report, we make sure that we send copies to the institutions against whom we have actually have adverse findings. So what we have done is to send copies of these reports to the ARCSLAF and the Sierra Leone Police. So now, Rule 60 of our complaint rules of 2008 is very clear that if an institution, an individual fails to comply with our orders, then we can refer that person or that institution to the High Court for contempt. In other words, you have disregarded what the High Court has actually said, the High Court of Sierra Leone. I just told you that when you sit to do this such exercise, we have the powers. We are clothed in the powers as the High Court. So if you disregard our recommendations, our orders and directives, that means you have disregarded the High Court. And normally, when the High Court gives out orders, slams orders, if you as a party to the action against whom you have, I mean, they have ordered you fail to comply, of course, there will be contempt proceedings, which will mean that you will risk, going to jail, and in this case, the Sierra Leone Police, it is the hierarchy. We are using what to call vicarious liability. Mr. Bokari, for instance, may have committed the offense, okay, the human rights violation, but then he was acting in his capacity as a police officer, for instance. I'm just giving an example. So if we have a recommendation or an order against, it is against the police, and the police is represented by the Inspector General of Police. So at the end of the day, we don't want to get to that point where we'd have to, refer the IG to the High Court for contempt, or the head of the military. I'm sure we don't get to that point. I'm sure they understand the laws of Sierra Leone. We have sent them, copies of these laws or excerpt of these laws for them to understand exactly that this is what we are doing, and we are actually within the laws of Sierra Leone.
So who's paying the compensation, and to whom is it paid?
Yes, the institutions are paying the compensation. They can find ways now. Let's say the report is very clear. There are names of those who may have perpetrated the human rights violations. So they will say, okay, your name has come up in this report. We can begin to deduct some amounts from your salaries, okay? It depends on how they want to do it. But we have a problem with the institution. So it is the institution that will pay. And they pay to Human Rights Commission for onward transmission to the victims. So that is, in fact, it is in the report. We said the money should be paid to the commission, and the commission will in turn send them to the victims. So what we do, we want to make sure that we have a dedicated account in that regard, so that we do a whole media kind of thing, stunts where we bring the victims, and then we give them the money, before the camera, so that everybody will know that the monies were collected, and then the monies were given to the victims.
And the Human Rights Commission of Sierra Leone has done this investigation for victims who suffered police or military brutality. We also have situations where the police or the army, they have also faced some violent encounters by citizens. They have been assaulted as well. Who champions that?
Yeah, so
when it's perpetrated against men in uniform.
Yes. So initially I told you that we had about 9 questions for determination by the panels, and one of the questions was whether the citizens themselves, understood or supported the Sierra Leone police or the military law enforcement officer generally in doing their job. And instances where there was an assault against a police officer, for instance, we said that the police officers should come and make their own complaints, so that we look at them. I think I remember we had 2 instances where police officers actually came before us to make complaints. That was in Kono. But then, as the proceedings were ongoing, we realized now that, this police officer had already given in to family settlements, that the family came. He was trying to arrest an Okada rider, and then the Okada rider actually assaulted him. I think he sustained some injuries, and he went to court. He actually filed the matter to court, and the individual was brought to court. But then during the process, the family of the individual, they went to the police officer, they appealed, and then the police officer actually agreed. So they discontinued the matter from court. So then we are now asking, I mean, you have gone to court. You have disallowed, you have discontinued the matter. They have come, family members have come to you, they have begged you, and you have agreed. So why do you have to come back to us? So basically, 2 matters that came before us from the Sierra Leone police, I mean, from personnel of the Sierra Leone police. It was very clear that at some point, they had to agree for settlement at that level. So they did not continue with their own cases. But they had the opportunity actually to come before us. It was very clear that if you are a military officer, a police officer, or a metropolitan police officer, as the case may be, you can come to us if you have any case against a civilian who may have caused some bodily harm or whatever form of assault against you.